Rural Electrification Act? Man, we used to be a real country, dude. Rural Electrification Act of 36. The funding to install electrical distribution systems in isolated rural areas was channeled through cooperative electric power companies, hundreds of which still exist today. These member-owned cooperatives purchased power on a wholesale basis and distributed it using their own network of transmission and distribution lines. The Rural Electrification Act was one of many New Deal proposals by FDR to remedy high unemployment during the Great Depression. Damn, it's crazy that if you have money and you have unemployed people, you can just smack the two together and make the country better. It's insane. You have excess wealth that can be taxed and redistributed. You have unemployed people. Magical. Capital to the modern neoliberal. This is unfathomable. What do you mean tax wealthy people and use the money to employ poor people to do work? That doesn't work. It doesn't count when the government employs people. The government can employ any number of people. Yeah, so let them. But if they're doing it, how is that even employment really? Because they're getting paid for work they do. But the government could just do it. Yeah, so why don't they? Because it only counts when private companies do it. Why? Because the government could just do it. Yeah, they should. But I swear to God, man, this is actually a debate in econ circles. Why is Vaush always ragging on Uniqlo? Uniqlo is good stuff at a fair price. You are mentally ill. I speak almost exclusively positively about Uniqlo, and the earlier reference to Uniqlo was one thing, and maybe the first time I mentioned them in a month, and it wasn't even a negative reference. I only said that you were wearing Uniqlo trousers. It was not even remotely negative. You are hyper-defensive. You are parasocial. You latch on to opportunities to perceive yourself as the victim. You need to go outside. Stop watching. Radio Free Cat Girl, stop watching right now. Stop watching right now. Turn the computer off. Raiden, turn the game off now. Look at this, man. Genuine question, how do unskilled laborers build electricity infrastructure that actually works? Seems complicated. They weren't unskilled laborers, man. The government hired people and also hired professional electrical engineers. And the regular people worked under the electrical engineers until they know how to do the job, and then they do it. It's called on-the-job training, and it used to be a feature of all work. Like, every job that you would do, you would get hired, and then they'd be like, here's how you bake bread. Here's how you work at a foundry. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do that. That was all work for all of human history, except for now. Now when you get hired, somebody who's been working on the job for 2 months gives you the corporate spiel, you watch the modules, and then you just fuck around and do whatever, and nobody learns anything, and then you die, eventually. Rayburn stated in 1959 that 90% of farm homes in the US were electrified, compared to 3% in the early 1930s. In less than 30 years, we went from no farms being electrified, basically, to almost all of them. REA teams traveled throughout the American countryside, bringing teams of electricians along with them. The electricians added wiring to houses and barns to utilize the newly available power provided by the line crews. Can you imagine living around back then, being a farmer, and having a team of people come to you, and they're like, hello, we're from the government. We're here to give you power and access to modern, modernity. And then you're like, okay, what do I have to pay? And they're like, no, we're just setting up infrastructure. We're just going to set this up. We're just going to, improve the world. This was during the early 1930s. This was in the recovery of the Great Depression. This was when, the country was relatively poor. It was before America was a superpower, and it was before we benefited from the post-war industrial boom. We're just going to change your lives forever. We're just going to bring you into the modern world. Thank you, Lolas Bestos. Okay, listen. They didn't know. The Rural Electrification Act is the reason why today we have internet all across the country. Look at this. 2008, provision for access to rural broadband telecommunications network and rural internet. If it wasn't for FDR, we wouldn't have this. It's no exaggeration. Without FDR, we wouldn't even have the legal infrastructure that allowed for the internetification of the whole country. We probably wouldn't even have fucking cell towers in a lot of the country. There's so much. I'm telling you guys, if it wasn't for the fact that we already were used to the idea, public libraries, water fountains, and public restrooms wouldn't exist. If we reinvented society from scratch today with neoliberal principles being the founding doctrine for this country, none of those things would exist. They'd be ludicrous. If you proposed a public restroom or a public water fountain in any area, people would lose their minds. NIMBYs would show up in droves to the local fucking town hall and be like, you just want water, the thing you get in your house house or in bottles at a restaurant? You just want there to be like a fountain for that? What if a homeless person went up to it and pressed the button and held it down forever, wasting public water? I'm not going to have my water bill go up because of a homeless person pressing the button and holding it forever. Benches don't exist anymore either. It's true. Within the span of a lifetime, we went from benches being, I'm not going to say easily available everywhere, but pretty like present in American cities, to being gone. We literally, in many parts of America, we literally just don't have places to sit anymore because homeless people. We just don't have a place to sit anymore because they don't want homeless people to sit there. A lot of public restrooms have been closed indefinitely since COVID. No pools because of racism. Yep. Remember, in the South, just example number 50 trillion of the good things FDR did or equivalent being destroyed because of racism or whatever else. Can't have benches because homeless black people might sit on them. Can't have public pools. We used to have public pools all across the South. Basically every town, small or medium or big in the South, had public pools. And they shut them all down during the fucking civil rights movement because they were tired of black people and white people swimming together. They would rather, when desegregation was federally mandated, these towns shut down their pools rather than allowing black people to swim there. Yeah, they poured cement into them to make them unusable. Thousands of public pools shut down. When Jackson, Mississippi closed 4 out of 5 public pools and then leased the 5th to a whites-only YMCA. This is why class reductionism doesn't work, because the culture war is the way the elites have always fought for the deprivation of your material wealth. Wealthy people almost never make that argument by going like, yeah, we're running on like a policy proposal of making you poorer. It's always, always, always framed through the culture war. Also, not to get in with it, but like, man, it's crazy how fat people used to not exist, right? Getting back into my damn high fructose corn syrup argument, you know what I mean? Those kids look so happy. How can you see that and get rid of the pool? All across the South, white adults went to massive public pools like this, and they went, we would rather destroy this and make all of the young people here sad and unhappy than allow blacks to swim in it. And they destroyed it. Thousands and thousands. St. Louis used to have a pool that could hold 10,000 people consecutively. They closed it down. Oh, sorry, not consecutively, concurrently, and they closed it down because 40 black people used it. Yep. The St. Louis Municipal Pool race riots. Yep. Look at that. The Fairground Park pool. It was like a wonder in St. Louis. Look at that. Opened to a 500,000 person audience. One of the biggest outdoor pools at the time, like ever, my understanding. A public wonder. And then some black people swam in it and they shut it down. That's why you can't. Class reductionism doesn't work. It doesn't work. So this was the vintage version of owning the libs. That's always been how it works. The MAGA movement is just a return to first principles. We only enjoyed a brief reprieve from them, you know? This is always how it's worked. White racist people slamming their own dicks in a car door because they know that the blood might splash on a black person. What do we do about racists other than the obvious? I mean, like, genuinely, this kind of bigotry is a public disease that needs to be rooted out. It needs to be fought as aggressively as one would fight COVID or the Spanish flu or the Black Plague. Legally and infrastructurally, it has to be destroyed. You know, racism isn't just a thought. If it were merely thoughts, you couldn't reach it. These are actions that can be policed. People can go to jail. People can get in trouble for doing stuff like this. But for some reason, the folks over at St. Louis were able to destroy a public wonder because they would rather do so than allow black people to swim in it. That's an act. That's not a thought. You can destroy acts. They can continue to have their racist thoughts from the comfort of a prison cell. Like you've said, white supremacists don't care about helping whites. They care about cruelty towards non-whites. It has literally always been this way with zero exceptions. There has never been a white supremacist regime or institution that has spent even a moment of its time concerned with the plight of white people. They never do it and they never will. They don't care. It has never been a positive impulse. Bigotry has never been used to help anyone ever at any point in time ever. Never. Not once. Not in any country or period of time. Bigotry is always used to direct negative energy against other people. True altruism is and always has been unbigoted. Sincere question, but you said Europe is more racist than the USA, yet this is unthinkable in Europe. Oh, this is more racist than Europe. For sure. I mean, today, it's a difference in the kind of racism, but America's come a long way in terms of like specific kinds of bigotry, whereas Europe is still very nationally and ethnically divided. But I certainly like here, yeah. This kind of overt, over the top racism is I don't think it had much peerage in Europe at the time, relatively. Belgians had black people zoos in the 70s, don't tell chat. Those classic Belgians. On that note, whites-only housing was recently banned in Pennsylvania by only one vote. That's cool. Bill banning whites-only housing passes Pennsylvania House by one vote, despite not a single Republican supporting the measure. Yep, that sounds about right. How was it legal in the first place? Loophole.